online group presentation. We are the group 3. Our topic is tax policy and administration in developing countries. Members are Kang Jong-soo, Seo Sung-hyuk, Lee So-young. The major are the same. Our major is accounting. I am the presenter, Kang Jong-soo. I explain our contents. First, basic information. Second, tax policy trends. Third, changes in tax policy by category. Fourth, real case analysis. Fifth, summary and implications. The last, source and contact mail. You can see the left side of our slide. You can see the China's port picture. China is the huge country and also belong to the developing countries. So we choose this picture for our topic. Part 1, basic information. You can see the World Economic Classification. You can see the developing countries and developed countries, and the other part, developing countries, marked the green points. Russia and middle of the Asia and Middle East, Africa and Africas, and Argentina and south of the America continent is contained to the developing countries. You can see the newly industrializing country also. It is the Mexico and China, India, Indonesia, the Republic of South Africa. It is belong to the newly industrializing countries. And you can see the gray parts on our picture. It means developed countries, Australia and West Europe and Canada, United States, Korea and Japan. Those kind of countries are classified as the developed country. And the red points mean recent classification of developed country. And the other light green parts means IMF statistical exclusion area. So we cannot distinguish this kind of countries is not classified. Developing countries mean countries that lack industrial modernization and economic development because the technologies, knowledge, and systems adopted in developed countries have not yet been sufficiently disseminated. Newly industrialization country. It is widely used to refer to developing countries that have achieved remarkable growth through industrialization policies. China, India, those kind of countries belong to newly industrialization country. Korea was practically recognized as a developing country and emerging country until the early 1990s, but since the mid-1990s, it is generally classified as a developed country. Part 2, Tax Policy Trends. You can see the picture of national burden rate by country in 2017. Indonesia, Mexico, Chile, Turkey, Korea. You can see the left side of the picture. It is the quite low percentage of the burden rate. The OECD average rate is almost 35%, and you can see the other countries' information also. Sweden, Belgium, Denmark, France, those kind of countries are really have high score in the picture. Among the countries analyzed, Indonesia national burden rate was the lowest with 11.6%, Mexico 16.2%, and Chile 20.2% are the lowest among the OECD countries. And those kind of countries are contain the developing country. This is GDP per capita and national burden rate in 2017. There are lots of countries in our picture. You can just check the red point, the left side of our picture. Indonesia, Mexico, Chile, Turkey, Argentina, those kind of. There is a positive correlation between the national burden rate and GDP per capita. In countries with high GDP per capita, Northern Europe, Belgium, and France, the national burden is high. Low national burden in countries with low per capita GDP. Chile, Indonesia, Mexico, etc. The structure of tax revenue by tax structure varies significantly from country to country. The largest share of income tax, including personal income tax and corporation tax in 20 countries. In Republic of South Africa and the other countries are the share of income tax about half of all tax revenues. OECD global tax revenue accounts for 20% of VAT, 9% of corporate tax, and 5.67% of tax on assets. Countries around the world are offering tax benefits due to COVID-19. Extension of the tax return payment period, exception and determinant of social security contributions, tax benefits in the health sector, expansion of deficit deductions, tax breaks for specific industries, etc. China medical staff bonuses and subsidies are exempt from personal income tax, and Malaysia health and immigration employees are allowed special tax deductions. As countries around the world face an economic crisis due to the spread of Corona-19, they are focusing on improving their liquidity so that economic players such as businesses and householders can survive. Countries around the world are offering tax benefits due to COVID-19. According to the report by the OECD representative of the Republic of Korea on April 14, the current state of tax response to major countries in the COVID-19 situation, the major tax policies each country has in response to COVID-19 are the extension of the tax deadline, extension and suspension of Social Security contributions. Hence, it is summarized in the areas of tax benefits, expansion of deductions for defects, and tax reduction for specific industries. And many kinds of countries all of the world have some impact of the economic. So you can see the bottom side of our slide, trade impact of the coronavirus epidemic. So European Unions and United States, Japan, and Korea also have lots of negative uh, economic implications is having those kind of countries. And right side means the coronavirus is our Korea institution respond uh, our money and support to the uh, household and enterprises. Countries around the world are also implementing tax reduction policies to support industries struggling with COVID-19. The United States abolished the federal individual consumption tax on civil aviation, and China expected exempted taxes on medical, lodging, beauty, laundry, and public transportation services. France always allowed adjustments of self-employed tax rates and payments, and Norway cuts the value-added tax rate for certain cultures or tourism from 12% to 8%. The UK has taken property tax cuts for retail, leisure, lodging, and tourism. In addition to extending the reporting and payments deadline, tax authorities in various countries around the world are also implementing measures such as expanding the installment payment agreement, delaying the collection process of arrears, early refund of taxes, and delaying tax audits. Part 3. Changes in tax policy by category. Recent changes in tax policy in the field of corporate tax. The corporate tax rate cut trends continues in 2019, and the cut rate is weaker than the previous year. Corporate tax rates vary by country from 9% in Hungary to 32.02% in France. In Western Europe and Latin America, corporate tax rates are high and the Nordic countries are moderate. Low corporate tax rate is Central Europe and Baltic countries. The average legal income tax of OECD members countries fell from 30.2% in 2000 to 23.5% in 2019, decrease in all countries except Chile. Intellectual property tax. Intellectual property is the creation of the minds of an individual which has an commercial and moral value. Intellectual property rights grants exclusive rights to an author for utilizing and benefiting from their creation. There are lots of types: patent, copyright, trademark, design, database, trade secret. A system countries to tax at low rates on income from intellectual property rights. Recent changes in tax policy in the field of personal income tax. In 2019, several countries cut personal income tax rates. Announcement or introduction of tax reform plan to reduce personal income tax revenue. In particular, the labor income tax burden has risen for several years after the financial crisis, decreasing trends since 2013. Expanding income tax deductions and tax rate sections to support low-income groups and employment in many countries. Consumption tax, including VAT and general sales tax. We are introduced the developing countries value-added tax rate. So Korea is standard tax rate is 10%. There's no decreased tax rate. Japan is 10%. India 12.5%. Indonesia 10%. Taiwan 5%. China 16%. Vietnam 10%. Chile 90%. It's quite high. Mexico is 16% and Russia is 20%. It is the highest. Republic of South Africa is 14% and Turkey 18%. You can check the decreased tax rate also. Japan's consumption tax rate will rise from 8% to 10% from October 2019. There's no changes in value-added tax rate in 2019 other than in OECD countries. So, except Japan, Japan is also kind of developed country, and the other countries are developing countries, so they have no changes in VAT.
Imagine you need to walk several miles each day to get clean water. Imagine the nearest public school. Imagine you need to walk several miles each day to get clean water. Imagine the nearest public school is 3 hours from your home. Imagine you have to travel a day or more to get proper health care for your sick child. These are some of the struggles that people in low and lower middle income countries face on a daily basis. Experts believe efficient tax policies and tax administration reforms can help overcome these challenges.
Tax capacity is very important for development because it correlates strongly with state capacity and strong institutions, which are crucial for the overall performance of the economy. When one country has strong tax capacity, it has a stable source of revenue that allows for very good governance of public finances in general. And that in turn is very important for sound delivery of fundamental services like health, education, and public infrastructure.
The International Monetary Fund provides technical assistance and training to support sustainable public finances and inclusive economic growth.
In 2015, our technical assistance reached 120 countries, and close to 12,000 officials benefited from our training programs. Particularly over the last few years, the IMF has intensified strategic partnerships that have enabled us to leverage the know-how and financial resources of donor agencies and to help ensure a more effective and coordinated response to the needs of developing countries. The TPA-TTF is an excellent example of this partnership in action.
The TPA-TTF Tax Policy Administration Topical Trust Fund was launched by the IMF in April of 2011 in partnership with 10 donor agencies. The TPA-TTF was designed to address the low tax yields that many developing countries suffer.
The European Union and the IMF have a very solid, long-standing partnership. This goes back on the one hand to the macro-fiscal area when it comes to our budget support operation, but it extends very much as well to the domestic resource mobilization.
Tax policy and tax administration reform has been at the heart of our work since the mid-1990s. It's the main vehicle for countries to mobilize sufficient revenues and resources to finance their own efforts for the reduction of poverty, to finance infrastructure, to finance public services.
In our German perspective, it is very crucial. The so-called social contract is crucial, so taxpayers want to know for what they have to pay taxes. They want to know how the money is being spent. So the link between raising taxes and spending public budget is very crucial. So domestic resources are being used for hospitals, for schools, for public services in general.
The donor community's active engagement has been a valuable contribution to the TPA-TTF project. Reflecting donor diversity, a multinational team of the IMF is coordinating technical assistance efforts. The TPA-TTF has achieved broad geographical exposure with 21 programs active worldwide and has contributed to significant boosts in revenue mobilization.
We see success in two dimensions. We've been very successful in expanding the TPA's reach. Over the past years, its activities have grown significantly and is now active in 20 countries in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and Central Asia, and the Western Hemisphere. And the Trust Fund has also initiated 2 cross-country projects in Africa, which have the advantage of helping ensure a consistent approach and facilitate a race to the top. But more importantly, the Trust Fund has achieved results. This has been confirmed both by our own monitoring, but also a recent independent evaluation of the program.
One of the countries that benefited was Liberia. In 2014, the Trust Fund played a key role in successfully launching the Liberia Revenue Authority.
We at the Liberia Revenue Authority, LRA, are very grateful for the IMF support and technical assistance under the Tax Policy and Administration Topical Trust Fund. For us at LRA, the support has been critical to standing up our newly established Revenue Authority.
In Senegal, a new version of the e-tax procedure has been introduced.
Nous avons engagé des réformes hardies depuis 2001, mais il est évident que le programme TPA-PTF devrait continuer parce que nous sommes encore une fois dans la réflexion. En matière de politique fiscale, aujourd'hui, nous ne pouvons pas le faire sans une expertise comme celle du.
And in Ethiopia, which is one of the fastest growing and largest countries in Africa, the Trust Fund has also supported a 2 percentage point increase in the tax ratio.
It has been able to boost synergies between technical assistance and training, support applied research, and encourage a strong focus on results-based management. The positive experience with the TPA-TTF will help shape the next phase.
now called the Revenue Mobilization Trust Fund.
The new trust fund allow us to engage with countries that want to have a comprehensive reform of their tax system, an improvement in their tax capacity, including very important new topics like international tax or carbon taxation.
The new Revenue Mobilization Trust Fund will operate fully during 2017 and 2022. It will build on the IMF and its partners' extensive experience in capacity development. The experience gained under the TPA-TTF will provide
Taxation standard section and tax rate of personal income tax in Turkey. There are 4 steps of the tax rate from the 15% to 35%. So there are 4 steps, 15, 20, 27, 35% of tax rate, and from the 2011 to 2016 data. Tax standard in 2011, the lowest part is 9,400 part, and you can see the tax rates are all the same, even the 2016 just started from the 15% to the 35%. Only tax standard is changed about this. The stage number 1, 9,400 to 2012, 10,000, and 2013, 10,700. In this of the case, the flows is increased, so you can check the tax standard only changed. Maintain the same progressive tax system of stage 4 and the tax rate of 15 to 35% during the survey period. The tax base of each section is raised every year to elevate it to the increase in tax burden in consideration of the level of price increased. It is the Poland's personal income tax base section and tax rate. Units are Poland's money and the percent is tax rate. It's kind of simple steps, so there are just only 2 stages of the tax rate. There are two 18 and 32 tax rates, and the tax standard are quite simple. 85,524 under their personal income means they're just burden 18%. If I just exceed the 85,528, mean we have to pay 32% of our money. Maintain the same 2-step progressive tax system with 18 and 32 tax rates during the period. Is the changes in corporate income tax rate. You can see the Mexico, Poland, Turkey countries, and the data is 2000 and 2010, 2011, 2012, and to the 2017. Mexico dropped from the 35% in the 2000s to 30% in the 2010s, Poland fell from 30% in the 2000s to 90% in the 2010s. Turkey dropped from 30% in the 2000s to 20% in the 2010s. So the flows are the same. The corporate income tax rate is dropped and the flows are the same. So developing countries for flow means they are decrease the corporate income tax rate. This table explains the environmental energy tax burden rate of OECD countries. Unit is percent. There are lots of countries: Mexico, Poland, Turkey, Chile, Korea, and the OECD average rate also in here. And you can check the 1994 and 2000 and 2010s years information. Turkey shows the highest burden rate in the 2010s at 3 to 4%. Korea represents at a late 2% burden rate, higher than other countries. It is an unusual case in which Mexico has a negative burden. And compared to OECD average is almost 1.6% of the environmental energy tax burden. Korea is also have special point because Republic of Korea, their burden 2.66% of the environment tax, so it's quite higher than the other countries. And the Chile and Poland is almost 1% or 1%, 1.9, those kind of flow. From this page, I introduced China's tax system. China's current tax law system consists of substantive and procedural laws, and the substantive law consists of 18 tax-related laws and regulations. You can see the 5 green points. So there are income tax and transaction tax, lessors tax and property tax, and service tax. Income tax have 2 parts: corporate income tax and personal income tax. Transaction tax have 3 points, but in here there's 2: consumption tax and tariff. Tariff is the transaction tax. Resource tax is resource tax, and property tax have the other kinds of the contains, but here I just mark 2 kinds of the property tax. So car acquisition tax and real estate tax is contained to property tax, and the service tax have printing tax and environmental protection tax, and the service tax also have more kinds of several taxes. China's tax system, an additional tax. This is a tax equivalent to Korea's VAT, and is a tax imposed on the incremental value generated in goods or services at each transaction stage. According to the provisions of the Chinese revenue tax law, the revenue tax is a unit or individual that sells goods, provides processing and repair services, providing services, transports intangible assets, transfer real estate, or import cargo in China. Tax is applied on the amounts of increase and the import of cargo. The applicable tax rate for tax is 30%, 9%, 6%, and other applicable rates are separately referred to as collection rates. Corporate income tax. The corporate income tax law is the same tax item as the corporate income tax in Korea. The organizations that acquire businesses and other income in the People's Republic of China are the taxpayers of corporation income tax and pay corporate income tax in accordance with the provisions of the corporate income tax law. The basic tax rate is 25%, and it is subtracted from the reduction tax rate and the preferential tax rate. Personal income tax. China's personal income tax is a tax based on income earned by natural persons such as salary and wages and production and management income of individual industrialists. From January 1st, 2019, a new type of combined taxation on partial income and taxation on other income was implemented. The distinction between residents and non-residents is based on 183 days. So if you live in the China more than 183 days, it means that you are the resident, so you have to pay the residence payable tax. So if you live or stay less than 183 days in the China, it means that you are the non-resident. So you just follow the non-resident tax law. Tax management. Currently, China's tax management is collected and managed by the tax funder and the relevant authorities, among them the maritime agent collects customs duties, shipping tonnage taxes, and also increases an excise tax at the import stage. All other taxes are collected and managed by the tax office. Tax investigation. A tax investigation is a judicial activity in which a tax agency examines and supervises in implementation of statutory obligations for management, such as taxpayers in accordance with national tax laws and regulations. Tax investigations can be divided into three types: taxpayers' own investigation, joint investigation, and tax investigation. Tax administration review. If a taxpayer dispute arises between a taxpayer, a withholding agent, a taxpayer, and tax agency, you must first pay taxes and arrears in accordance with the tax agency's tax decision or provide relevant security and then applied for administrative review by law. If you disagree with the decision of the administrative hearing, you may disagree with the People's Court pursuant to the law. Taxation analysis in Korea. We are also have some trouble of our tax burden ratio is kind of higher than the previous years. You can see the left side of our table. They are marked. The points is blue line tax burden ratio and red line national tax burden ratio and the green line local tax burden ratio. Especially the national tax burden ratio and tax burden ratio is higher and higher after the 2013, and the right side of our pages you can see the national debts from the 2013 drastically we are getting increased 32.6% to 34 point and 2015 35.7% and as we are almost 36 point of percent national debts. We are too higher than the previous years, I think. Korea's debts is increasing gradually. Therefore, the people's various tax burden raised will increase. In addition, the government gave the National Disaster Support Fund due to this Corona-19, but the money will be paid back by the taxes of our people. The wage is frozen, but the tax will increase. Part 5. Summary and implication. The corporate tax rate cut trend continues in 2019 and the cut rate is weaker than the previous year. Corporate tax rate vary by country from 9% in Hungary to 32% in France. In 2019, several countries cut personal income tax rates. Announcements or introduction of tax reform plan to reduce personal income tax revenue. No change in value-added taxes rate in 2019 and other than in OECD countries. We explained taxation standard section and tax rate of personal income tax in Turkey, Poland personal income tax base section and tax rate changes in corporate income tax rate, environmental, energy tax burden rates of OECD countries. Korea needs to provide tax resource and control debts well. It is expected that developing countries will need a lot of support from businesses and households after overcoming the COVID-19 situation wisely. Last part, source and contact mail. Source of data. International trends in tax statistics of member states. Korea Institute of Public Finance, comprising of value-added taxes in member states. Jung Jae-ho, a researcher at the institute. Tax Policy and Administration of OECD Country 2010. Tax Revenue and Tax Reform Trends in OECD Countries. Tax Policy Reform 2019 OECD and Selected Partner Economies. Korea Sejong Newspaper. OECD Statistics Dataset Environmental Relate Tax Revenue. OECD Global Revenue Statistics Database. OECD National Accounts Statistics. Ministry of Strategy and Finance. OECD Taxing Wages Database. We are also using the Wikipedia and OECD Statistics Dataset, Central Government, Personal Income Tax Rates, and their hold. This page is translation for the Korean students. It is the article of our part 2 text trends. So it's our coronavirus situation. So there have some hard expression. So you can use this page for your translation and understanding. If you have any questions or feedback, just contact to my email address. My email address is in here. So if it is not that clear or have some question, just contact. Thank you for watching my presentation. My presentation is finished.